is a landmark achievement. The industry in Chile has really been growing quickly over the last decade or so, and that growth over the last decade has really been fueled by Chilean investors and local players, and the investment really coming from mainly local life insurance companies and then the private, kind of family offices, private wealth, and I think that's been terrific for the industry because it's allowed the asset class to demonstrate its resilience, especially through the difficult time of the pandemic. And it's built up sort of a track record operationally. That's helped drive some liquidity, gotten the market more educated about what the asset class is. But at the same time, Greystar and Ivanhoe coming into the market, as kind of leaders. I mean, we are strategic partners globally, and leaders in the asset class globally. I think that allows us to bring a different sort of approach and a different view of the asset class to the local market, and we believe that we'll be elevating the level of the product, the service, improving the renter experience, and then the ultimate aim is to continue to attract other global investors to Chile, demonstrating that a professionally designed, built, managed asset can work here, and and also something of scale that would make it worth their while. So I think that's it's an achievement, but it's really kind of the first step in the next sort of phase of the asset class's evolution in the country. Is the way I see it.
Yeah, I'm gonna echo everything that Tom is saying. I think one thing I'm gonna add is just to say that as Ivanhoe Cambridge, we've been dating with Chile probably for a couple of years. It's been super difficult. I think not only for us, but all other international investors to come to Chile, exactly because the point that Tom just mentioned. The local money or the local institutional players, they were very liquid and really accepting lower returns, and so it was a very competitive market and difficult for us to justify to enter in Chile. I think with everything that's happening in Chile, it opens an opportunity for investors such as us to step in. I think Chile is one of the faster growing countries in Latin America, so there is very strong fundamentals. If you take Santiago, is the higher GDP per capita also in Latin America, so it's a super strong economy in that sense, and deserves a product such as what we are willing to provide with our JV in Chile. So I think it's something that is, we're going to talk more about multifamily, but it's just to say that not only for multifamily, but I think Chile, it kind of opens its door to international investors once there is lower competition in the local market. So allow us to have reasonable returns with the risk we are receiving or investing in Chile. So just to complement.
So for Rondelau, I mean, we are so excited because this is the first project that we have in operation, not only in Chile, but also in South America in the region. And, it's been a long time coming. This project in particular, we had actually started working on back in 2018 with Activa, the developer, when we were considering acquiring it with a different local player. And then, the social unrest started in 2019, which kind of derailed that. But we had the opportunity at that time to give some input into the design. So, when we acquired it with Ivanhoe, it was pretty much built and ready to be delivered and start operating. But it had already been, it had a number of our comments on the design incorporated. And so, it's the closest thing we've seen in the market to kind of a purpose-built for rent building. And I think it's in a part of the city that is transitional. It's in La Cisterna, which is kind of a middle-class market or middle-income market to the south of the center of Santiago, where it's kind of in the path of development following the metro south of the center. And I think it's been a terrific testament to our thesis, which up until now was just kind of theory, but now we're seeing it in practice, that if you deliver a better product and a better service, people will come, and it'll be received well, and it'll be able to achieve a premium over the shadow market. And those are all things that are now being borne out. We had some challenges in the beginning with operating and getting all the systems set up and everything, but everything is running smoothly now, and we've been meeting and exceeding the goals we've had for the lease up, which is great. But I think the thing that I'm most proud of is Greystar manages nearly 3,000 buildings globally, and we have consistently, now we survey, we're all on, every of those buildings is on the same operating platform, so we're able to sort of have common measures or KPIs, key performance indicators across the portfolio. And we persistently survey our residents about their satisfaction at different points through like the leasing process, through if they have maintenance requests. And this project has consistently over the last several months ranked in the top 5 of all of Greystar's projects globally for customer satisfaction, because I think we are so far above so much better than what is currently offered in the market, and that's really being perceived by the residents that are there. So that's pretty incredible that as the first project in operation in Chile and in the region, we're able to rank in the top 5 of 3,000 buildings globally for Greystar. So that's a great testament to the team and their work as well. But I think it really demonstrates the differential of what we're offering.
Yeah, I mean, I think even Tommy is being very modest, because it's really what they did in this. The whole team of Greystar did in this project was really amazing, because the original project was was designed to be a residential for sale, and they came in and they came in the right time to adjust the project and be dedicated for designated for multifamily, so for rental use, and that was really respond with what the survey was saying. The quality of the building and the service and amenities that were provided to them. I think not only Santiago, but if you look to whole Latin America, we all deserve such a product, and it's been it is a terrible, let's say, experience for if you want to rent an apartment, and you need to pass through a very bureaucratic process, and then you need to manage your relationship with the landlord. They are not institutionalized, and so there is so much you gain by being in a building that is managed by a team such as Greystar. And so is this is just we are very happy that we start with this project. It's been a very successful one. Is trying to ramp up with the occupancy. We expect that this building will be fully leased by the end of the year. So, and everything is on track to get to that level. So let's see. But just to say, I think Greystar did an awesome job, and we are very happy.
And Augustina, I would just add, as far as like differentiating from the local market, a couple points on product. A building is a building, and I think we were able to incorporate some things in the technical kind of specifications and standards of the building, which were, a notch above what's there in the market. But a big part of the differentiator comes in the FF&E. So all of the fit out, the furnishings of the common areas, those common spaces, that helps to create a sense of community. And that's really where kind of Greystar shines, because we understand, what compels people to use different spaces, how to have sort of life on display and create that sense of community. And we've had visitors to the building from, our competitors in the industry, other investors, and folks that really know the market in Santiago, and they've all said, this product could be in the most premium locations within the city. I mean, they're shocked that in a very middle income, arguably lower middle income part of the city, you find this product that they would expect to see in Las Condes, Vitacura. So I think that's one thing where we've really sort of we're very able to kind of identify, without adding a lot of cost to a project, certain elements of how do you habilitate a space, like how do you furnish a space and deliver that kind of experience. And then in terms of the operations, we have an on-site team that has been a challenge to frankly recruit and train, because there's really not very many comparables in the local market where we can draw immediately from. So you have to try to get creative where to find folks with the right profile. But that team is now becoming a well-oiled machine, and whereas lots of folks in the local market in the multifamily will often have the administration kind of buried in the basement somewhere or in sort of a back office. Our administration is front and center, kind of working in the common spaces with the residents. They know all the residents by name. The leasing is done through people that are dedicated to the building and are there every day. And so, other multifamily uses third-party brokerage, and they're, filling up lots of different buildings at the same time. In our case, the person who is leasing you an apartment unit is there, and you see them every day while you're staying there. And so what they say to you, how they lease that unit to you, their sales pitch has to be honest, because you're going to see them every day. And often there's a, rapport that's built between the residents and the team. And so that sort of personal touch, of getting to know the residents also facilitates a lot of things in the administration, ensuring that rent collection is timely. When you have that kind of personal connection, people are less likely to be delinquent in their rent. So it's just a very different style of active management that I don't think the local market has seen yet, which we're excited to see in action here.
I think we kind of said a little bit in the previous question, but really we think there is so much room to grow in the sector. It is an incipient market in Chile, especially when you see a city such as Santiago, is a city with roughly 8 million inhabitants. There is it continue to be mainly the sector continue to be managed by non-institutional market. So we have a very big we have the shadow market that is super that's the most important. There's great majority of the rent goes to that, and there is a specific doing our analysis of investing in multifamily in Chile, and I think this was a survey that Greystar did, and which applies to all the other Latin America countries, or even globally. When you mix, in the same building, people that owns a residential unit and is there living, and you have also people that buys the unit to invest as an investor and lease to somebody else. So who is in the same community, you have people that own and people that rent. And you often find that people, the renters, they feel less qualified in this community than the ones that own. So even if they are in the elevator or in the common area, they don't think they have the same rights as the people that own. So they don't feel as part of the same community. So I think this is an important characteristic that we didn't stop to think about it. And when you have a building that is 100% owned by institutional investor, and everyone is there renting, and you don't have the pressure of some even the owner wants to sell the unit in the future, you need to leave, or they don't want to renew your lease, and then you need to find another place. So that's completely, you take all that risk out, because the use of the purpose of that investment is really to rent. So you can be there for as long as you want, let's say, and then everyone is in the same boat. So you really can create this whole community, as Tom was mentioning, and I think that makes a big difference, and that's what we're gonna see in terms of rents on that type of product being traded with a higher premium comparing to the lease on the shadow market, or in the disorganized market, let's say. So I think this is an important component, and so we really see as a great opportunity to continue growing our JV. As Tom mentioned, I think probably other institutional investors will also look to Chile, and especially Santiago, see as an opportunity to invest. I think there's room for everyone. So I will pause here and pass the ball to Tom.
Thanks. Well, I think there's a few points I'd like to make. One, the thing that Adriano is referencing about sort of being a second-class citizen as a renter and being treated differently, it's very much the case, and we have looked at this and found multifamily projects where it's 100% rental under single ownership is something that people feel they is a preference of renters, so that they don't have that dynamic of feeling as though they're a second-class citizen. And this for me goes back, so Chile as an opportunity is not something that only Greystar saw, but also this is personal for me, because I lived in Chile about a little over 20 years ago as a renter, and when I was applying to business school at that time, wrote my application essays about the horrible experience I had and the opportunity I saw to do something that was more professional, that offered a better product and service, and aggregate rental units in the market. And so it's incredibly cool to be back in Chile 20 years later, seeing that put into action. But anyway, so it's a personal thing, and I think Adriano said this earlier on in the discussion too, about it's something that people really do deserve. And I think in particular in the moment that Chile is living with this social unrest and social demands for kind of a better quality of life, more equality, those are all things that through our model we're able to offer people. And so I think it's kind of timely in a way. Just a couple other points that I think in terms of how we see Chile, it's certainly the country is facing an extended period of uncertainty, but that's the case for lots of countries around the world today. And I think the depth and length of that uncertainty is still to be determined. There's lots of factors at play. In a few months we're going to know what's going to happen with the Constitution. I think a lot hangs also on what happens in the U.S. and China. Those are Chile's two biggest trading partners. So it's a little hard to predict exactly, but I think it's important that the multifamily asset class is much more, it's semi-insulated from those sorts of dynamics, macroeconomic factors. We always say that most real estate is a economically led asset class, and can be influenced by demographics, but multifamily is a little bit unique in that it's really a demographically led asset class that can be influenced by economics. And so we see a lot of those demographic trends that are favorable and tailwinds, like household formation, the urbanization rates, people deferring decisions to marry and have kids, becoming independent younger. So lots of these demographic trends, coupled with throughout in Chile and across the region, major housing deficits, real affordability issues with housing that drive people to rent. So, I think there's a tremendous opportunity, not only in Chile, but also regionally. And for a lot of those reasons, the asset class tends to be, somewhat acyclical, whereas most real estate, everyone knows, is like highly cyclical. But, in good times, you have, low interest rates, rising home prices, and that differential between rent and home prices starts to widen, and that starts to lift rents. And so, that's good for the asset class. And then when people have, challenging times, you've got, generally a reluctance to make big purchasing decisions like buying a home. Interest rates go up, mortgages become more expensive, and so that also drives people to rent. And so those two things, sort of balance out so that the asset class proves to be quite resilient and surprisingly acyclical. So I think, those are the things that we see in Chile as, international actors, where we're quite optimistic about the future of the asset class, and think it's really just getting started. Even though there's about 100 buildings, multifamily buildings in operation today in Chile, there's still it's still like less than 2% of the total rental market. And so, in the United States, as a more mature multifamily market, the multifamily asset class represents somewhere between 35 and 40% of all of rentals, whereas in Chile it's still less than 2%. So I mean, there's a tremendous amount of room to grow, I think, both in Chile and in the region.
And I also gonna add that with the whole post-pandemic world, people, the whole idea of working fully from home, for example, is not a reality as we can see post-COVID. So that is this flexible work. But people did not, let's say, eliminate the office. So what multifamily brings is this flexibility too. So depending once you have more offer of multifamily in the city, it makes people more agile and flexible to move around in the city and be closer to work. And that I think that is a great value on that, and that's another let's say a favorable trend for renting as opposed to owning a house.
And Augustino, the last thing I would just say is, today in the current sort of environment in Chile, because of higher interest rates, economic challenges, and a general softening of the for sale market, we've seen an enormous uptick in opportunities for acquiring projects. Lots of, I think, for sale developers are realizing that some of their land bank they may not be able to monetize. They have projects underway that they're having difficulty selling units, and so lots are turning around saying, hey, we've got a project that we think is suitable for multifamily. We'd like to sell it to you. And as today, one of the few groups with dry powder and an appetite for investment in the local market, we've been seeing a lot of these opportunities. And I think part of Greystar's value add in this is being able to distinguish between what is really apt for multifamily operations and what isn't. And if there are projects that we think are interesting, also being able to quickly and efficiently modify the design so we can optimize it for rental. So that it's important to distinguish between, when you have sort of a flood of potential deals in the market, being able to filter those and pick, and focus on the ones that are what we believe are the best opportunities is the challenge we're having right now.
That's a good point, Tom. I think, and we've been talking a lot about that. I think we are one of the solutions for those developers today. If we were not in the market of, it would be very difficult for them to really come and try to sell those condo units. And that was the only option. Now we're coming and talking to them. We want to buy your whole building. It's a complete different conversation. So it solves a lot of their problem. And of course, we need to filter which one works better for us, and it can be applied. The project can be adjusted to provide the service we want to deliver. So that's a very important point. us, Ivanhoe Cambridge, I mean, we invest more on global cities than really the countries. So when we see like Chile, we really look to Santiago. Of course, there is space to grow in the country, but that's another step. Of course, when you go to Peru, you see Lima, very strong city, Bogota. There are opportunities in those countries, but I mean, we're at least for Ivanhoe, and then Tom can talk about Greystar, but we are more focused for now, really in Chile. I think, as I said, is the highest GDP per capita in whole Latin America. I think the average GDP per capita is around $25,000 per habitant. Is 40% higher than the whole Latin America average. It's higher than Brazil and Mexico. It is also Chile is a very urban. The urbanization rate is super high, so it's almost 90%. That's an important component for that. It's been really Chile is one of the most pro-market and faster growing country in the region. It's been very stable, even with the context that everything is happening in the world. That's, I think, for now, I think we are really focused on Chile. We know there is opportunities in the other countries. We're gonna maybe look to that, but for now, we will stick in Chile.
Yeah, well, from my perspective, we also see a lot of room to grow, and we're excited to scale our venture with Ivanhoe in Chile. We're also in Brazil, and looking to continue to scale in that market. We've looked around the region at other countries and haven't made moves yet into other countries in a meaningful way. But I would say, on the near-term horizon is probably Colombia and Peru. The things we look at are kind of the things that I had mentioned before about demographic trends, housing deficits, other things that are super important are things like the rule of law, just a sort of general macroeconomic stability, investor-friendly environments, liquidity, appetite from investors. I think Chile, is probably, no country has like the perfect mix of ingredients for this, but Chile has probably among the best positioned in the region as far as its environment for supporting the growth of multifamily housing, and that's why I think we've seen the asset class really take off here relative to, for example, in Mexico, it started before Chile started in terms of developing multifamily housing, and in Mexico today, there's maybe arguably 10 multifamily buildings, and in Chile there's 100. And so, you've seen the asset class really ramp up because of the sort of context and mix of ingredients here. I think a key ingredient is also reasonably priced long-term financing, which Chile offers and is very difficult to find in other countries. And just getting lenders kind of familiar with and comfortable with what the asset class is and offers. Those are all things that we look at carefully, but we're investors and looking to also build an operating business over the long term. And so, and I think that's a big sort of mental shift in terms of what is different about multifamily versus other residential real estate for sale is, the shift in mentality from looking at real estate as a transaction to looking at it as an investment over time. And so, that's the way we kind of look at these markets and believe in the long-term potential. So anyway, excited to scale with Ivanhoe as a strategic partner in Chile and the region.
Just to fix one of my answers, and when talking about other regions, was more in the Andean region. So more between Chile, Peru, and Colombia, I would say, because we have a strong presence in Brazil, and also we have this business in Mexico. So we continue to grow those business, and in Brazil we are looking to that as well. So this is something. Those countries we continue to invest.